So listen, I love tower defense games, like probably too much. Kingdom Rush, peak childhood. Plants vs Zombies, my entire personality for like 2 years. But there was always one problem. You finally upgrade your entire defense to absolute god mode. Your screen is a laser light show, zombies crying, goblins running for their lives, and then the game just goes, okay bro, nice, bye, and kicks you back to the menu with absolutely zero satisfaction. Like bro, what? I spent 40 minutes making a mega death laser and you won't even let me use it twice? So naturally, like any completely normal person, I decided to fix tower defense games by making one myself. But because I have perfectly healthy decision-making skills, I'll be doing it in only 3 days. What could possibly go wrong? Day 1, aka Asset Store Speedrun any percent. So the first few hours I did what every pro game dev does and immediately spent 2 hours scrolling the asset store to find some suitable assets for the game. After searching for a while, I came across these really cool and stylized assets by K. These assets were completely free and had everything that I needed to make the game. After collecting enough assets to start a small museum, I finally launched Unity, created a new project, and got to work. First, I had to make the area that we'll be playing in. I tried doing it with tiles, but it just didn't seem right. And considering what happened the last time I tried to use Unity's terrain tools, I decided to use good old simple meshes for the ground. Then I added some trees to make it look less like crap. Then I added a main camera and wrote a script for it so the player can move it around by using the mouse scroll wheel or pressing Q and E to go left and right. Then I built a wall and separated the battlefield into 2 areas. We will be building our city and resource collectors in the area behind the wall, and the area outside the wall will be where the enemies are gonna spawn and we have to build our towers there. The main objective of the game is gonna be protecting this wall, and if it falls, it's game over. Now that I had the main gameplay figured out, I had to make a building system. I tried implementing one of those cool grid-based building placement system, you know, the ones that only real tower defense games have. Yeah, it turns out grid systems were invented by demons. I spent like an embarrassing amount of time staring at the screen hoping the math would just solve itself, but breaking news, it didn't. Then I realized it's just way too complicated for me and my 2 brain cells, so I gave up and went with classic tower defense preset building spots, just like the OG games. Big brain productivity moment. So I made these building spots and placed around a map that you could click on and choose what buildings to build. Now it was time to make some actual buildings. First, I made collectors. Their job, collect stuff. Incredible design, I know. But I didn't want them to be simple, like adding some resources to your storage after some time. I wanted to make them interactable, just like in Plants vs Zombies. I made 4 types of resources and resource collectors, and added an icon on top of them that shows their collection progress. When they're done collecting, you can click that icon to add the resources to your storage. But I didn't stop there. I made a castle and some workers that you can assign to buildings to make them collect resources automatically. When you assign a worker to a building, they come out of the castle and walk towards the building, and when they reach it, they go inside and start working. Also, upgrading the castle gonna increase your maximum workers, and upgrading the collector buildings is gonna increase their worker capacity. So if you assign multiple workers to a building, it's gonna increase the production speed and production amount. At this point, it was 3 AM and I had a class at 7 AM, so I called it a day and went to sleep. In day 2, right after finishing all my classes, I immediately started working on the project. The first thing I did was to make an upgrade system for our buildings. I made this system using scriptable objects, so it's really scalable and can be used for all of the buildings. Also, with scriptable objects, all the upgrade costs and upgrade stats can be modified easily. Now we can upgrade our buildings to increase their production rate and production speed, and upgrade our castle to increase the worker capacity. After finishing the upgrade system, I decided it's finally time to work on the defense part of the game. So I started with an archer tower. I made some simple archers that will shoot at your enemies when they enter their range, and made a tower for them to stand on. Then I made a simple enemy to test out that if the towers were working, and to my surprise, they actually were. If we ignore the fact that I didn't have any arrows and used a cloud prefab instead. I also added some kind of like arc movement to our projectiles so they would seem like real arrows. After finishing the basics of our archer towers, I made a really cool upgrade system for them. When you upgrade your archer towers, it increases your archer's attack speed and damage. Also, if you reach certain level milestones, the number of the archers on the tower increases, making it way stronger. Doing all this stuff took longer than I expected, and I was feeling really tired, so I called it a day. On day 3, I didn't have any classes, so I had a lot of time to work on the project. First, I wanted to make some actual enemies and enemy spawners. Enemies are simple, right? Wrong. Every time I spawned them, they just started wandering around like confused toddlers. One of them even walked off the map. But after some debugging and emotional damage, I managed to fix it. Now enemies spawn and move towards your wall, and as the time passes, the enemies will start spawning more frequently, their stats increase, and new kinds of enemies will start spawning. After that, I added a wall logic so the enemies can damage our wall. Now, when the enemies reach our wall, they start attacking it, and when the wall's HP reaches 0, it's game over. With the addition of all the new stuff, the game was finally starting to take some shape, but it was still missing something. That's one golden thing that makes every game better. Gambling. I wanted to add an artifact system like in games like Megabunk and Risk of Rain, so the player could gamble using resources and get new artifacts. And artifacts would have cool effects like make your towers do fire damage or increase the production of your collectors and stuff like that. That would make the game way more enjoyable and infinitely replayable. So I did some research online and watched some tutorials, and it didn't seem like an easy system to implement. But after having a few cups of coffee and questioning my life choices yet again, I managed to put together an artifact system that supports any kind of artifacts, so I could add any new artifacts I wanted easily. After I was done with the artifact system, it was finally time to make the fun part, the gambling. So I added a broken building to our city that you could rebuild using resources, and that building is a tower. Inside the tavern, you can spend your hard-earned life savings to gamble and get some new artifacts. Now all I had to do was to make the gambling logic. So I gave artifacts some rarities to make the rarer artifacts harder to get. But because I don't know how math and all that probabilities and stuff work, I just hippity-hoppity your code is my property did from somewhere else. So long as it works, right? Now you can gamble in the tavern to get some new artifacts. For example, I got Tears of Hades here. Also, can we just stop for a moment and admire how cool that name is? Like, come on, Tears of Hades? Imagine being so hot that you make the god of Underworld cry. And yes, you can also use it as a pickup line. Anyways, that artifact causes our towers to set enemies on fire and deal damage to them over time. After finishing the whole gambling and artifact system, I still had some time left on my hands, so I decided to add another building. A church. But this church isn't for atoning for your sins. No church could pull that off. In this one, you can pray to increase your luck so you get better loot when you're gambling. I guess I'm the only one that could connect these two buildings together. And boom, after 3 days of questionable decisions, sleep deprivation, and turning my PC into a heater, I made a roguelike tower defense game. And if we ignore the fact that the enemies T-pose menacingly towards your tower, your archers shoot clouds at the enemies, and the UI looks like absolute crap, it's pretty good. Would I recommend doing this in 3 days? Absolutely not. Would I do it again? Probably yes. Also, I'll continue working on the project and adding new enemies, new towers, new artifacts and stuff. So, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, or else I'll make the next wave 500 times stronger. And see you in the next one.